Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your August 2020 General Tarot reading. It's Raina here. So, okay, this card just like flipped over, so I'm putting this in the center while I was shuffling. I was watching this delightfully eccentric British man, and he was, shuffling the cards, and I'm kind of like shuffling the cards like he was. Which is, taking one and dropping it into the other. And he was waiting for a card to jump out like that. And so what I'm going to do is, that one jumped out, but I'm going to pick another one for the centerpiece. Okay? Just because, I don't know, I like to actually pick them. And I don't mean I'm choosing, knowing what they are. Someone one time thought that that's what I meant. That's our card. I'm a Sag too. This is our card too. Did you know that? Did you know that the Knight of Wands is Sag? That's another card that I see as some other sign. I see that as Aries, because it looks like a warrior. Of course, Sagittarius can be warriors too, can't they? Oh, interesting. I'm looking at this astrologically. So we have the Knight of Swords and we have the Eight of Cups. And, excuse me. And by the way, you notice the moon with the Eight of Cups. On August 3rd, we're having a full moon at 11 degrees of Aquarius. For Sag, Aquarius is the third house. So a full moon in the third house can, mean ending something that is connected with communication. The third house is siblings or neighbors, and it might be something where you've been trying to get along with somebody, understand them, what have you, and you just kind of are like, I can't, because it's not a two-way street. Let's just say something like that. And so you move on from that. So if you've already been having problems with a sibling, this may be, the full moon here may really bring that into sharp focus for you, and you can see the limitations of that relationship or the limitations of that person. Sagittarius, we tend to give people the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. And I even think, though, that there's a card that this is a process of relocation, but maybe on a very small scale, because this is Eight of Cups is leaving what no longer serves you, kind of like the spiritual quest, but, feeding your soul. And this can bring it in the intellectual, it can bring it into your mind's eye, if you will, that where you are right now isn't feeding your soul anymore. It's possible that it did at one time, and now you need to move on. And the Knight of Swords is a card that's connected to intellectual professions too. So talking about lawyers and writers and teachers. So you might be finishing a writing project at that time in early August, if this is timed with that. I'm just thinking of what's happening in August to pinpoint it more. If this is a relationship, and I typically think of romantic ones, but it's not, it doesn't have to be, I guess. But I think of something where either that person is too insensitive and you're tired of feeling hurt by them, emotionally hurt, or perhaps you are not intellectually compatible. And it's very interesting with the Eight of Cups because there's that intuitive side as well. And the way that I see it is, I don't think of people who are intellectual as just not spiritual. I think of them, in some cases, they are very sophisticated in their outlook on life, and they really believe in living life to the fullest through the mind, through the life of the mind. So I consider the average Sagittarian to be an intellectual person, and if you are with somebody who is not that way, it can be problematic, even if they're a nice person. And you might not be able to pinpoint exactly what you're dissatisfied with, and maybe I just did, I don't know. But that could be something that has always bothered you, and as a result, it makes you not bond with them emotionally because you don't have that in common. You're not on the same page, so it's very hard to kind of feel that sense of the two of you coming together, so to speak. In the past position, we have the Eight of Wands. This is a card of a lot of movement, maybe very suddenly. After a lull in the action, it's like I don't want to say all hell breaking loose because that sounds bad, but something rushing in. And if this is if we're talking about a personal, like a one-on-one relationship or a romantic relationship, this may be something where you are getting a quickie divorce, where it's not even something you're going to draw out. You're coming from a lunar eclipse in Sag from June, and maybe for some Sagittarians, especially those of you sun signs, because I don't know how many rising signs are watching this, who are born in November. This eclipse may have affected you the most, and you just feel this sense of like, I have to just get out of this. That might be happening for you, where you're just able to make it happen. And perhaps it was a long time coming, is my point. The higher message is the Eight of Swords. For other people who have movement around them but still feel trapped, and definitely this could be like staying in the same place that you don't feel is feeding your soul, staying in the same job that doesn't feed your mind or your soul, relationship. It's how you talk to yourself. So you have to start, and also, talking to yourself can be the thoughts that you're thinking about your life, and those have to change. So being able to say to yourself that you are a sovereign soul, or that you have a right to happiness. These are the kind of affirmations that can free you, that can take take that bondage away. It might even be negative tapes that you're playing that go back to childhood, that somebody told you who you were when nobody can tell you who you are. I don't care if it's a parent or anybody. Nobody knows you better than yourself. But you have to claim your sovereignty. Otherwise, you're going to be a prisoner of your own mind, and a prisoner of your past, really. What crosses you is the Four of Swords. So if you're the kind of person who you're jumping from the frying pan into the fire, if the Eight of Wands is somebody new who's come onto the scene and is making you want to get a quickie divorce or leave your relationship. What you have to understand is that there's a good reason to wait. Even if you think you've fallen in love with somebody new, you have the rest of your life to be with this person. Why not be alone for a while and not be committed? I'm just asking the question. I'm not giving advice. I'm just asking why do that? And because it might be that you are someone who would benefit from being in a situation where you can be alone with your thoughts. You don't have to answer to anybody and things like that. The Four of Swords can be about just taking a breather from, the life as it is. It's a card of retreat, but in the challenge position, it's like you may not see. I feel like if this is, you know what this reminds me of, like whether it's in a personal relationship or in a professional one, is that somehow there was some kind of a lull in the action. So if this is work related, maybe the shutdown meant that you couldn't come back right away. You were on furlough, for instance, and now that they're giving you the green light and everything is kind of rushing back into action, you like that. Fire signs like Sag want to be active. They don't want to be passive. It's masculine energy, is yang, is really putting yourself out there. But you might feel like when you do that, when you rush back into something, that it's like I didn't really even get a chance to reflect on my life. It's like I was off of work and it was like I was in this holding pattern, but I never really reflected on what I wanted to do. And so the temptation is just to get right back into the fray. And that might not be where your path is leading you at the moment. And the Eight of Cups is like, I need that sense of fulfillment. It's not going to cut it anymore. Whether it's a relationship or a job, it's not going to cut it to just go through the motions. And I think one of the psychics or, energy readers on YouTube was talking about this, and that was a very intriguing concept, that having this time off forever alters us. Because, we cannot pretend that everything is the same. And it will never be the same. Even if we have complete freedom of movement and all of that stuff and all of the things that are so, regulated right now. If all of those are lifted, we're still going to be permanently changed. And so in some of the biggest ways, it's going to be energetically, because we had time to stop and think. Now maybe some of you Sages didn't, and that's why I'm getting this in the challenge position, the Four of Swords. Maybe you were still finding ways to distract yourself. But it is so important to really be intentional about your decisions and your behavior, and know why you're doing what you're doing, in other words. What's coming in is the Temperance card, our card. The last two cards are our cards, so they embody what we represent. The Temperance, 1 foot in water, 1 foot in land. So melding of the spiritual and the practical. I don't think it's said enough that we need that type of balance. I'm sure all of us have met people who are very ungrounded and they were into the spiritual scene. But those people, have a hard time making their case, because they can be very forgetful, very, like very spacey, and people tend to doubt what they say. When you have a certain groundedness, it's gravitas. It gives you that kind of quality that is more reliable, not flaky, in other words. And then you have the people that are so earthbound that they can't even entertain something that isn't of the five senses. They think that it's all fantasy, like Santa Claus. And so Sag has to kind of have a foot in both worlds. And in this particular case, that is what your part of your dilemma. Because if you are a Sagittarian who feels like in this time in your life that you feel very strongly drawn to a spiritual path, there is a way to be grounded and still devote a lot of time studying spiritual techniques and spiritual philosophies. Still taking care of the day-to-day concerns that life presents itself with. Because you may be called upon to be training for something, and part of the training has to be, how do I function in this world while I am on a spiritual quest? Can I have an online business where I don't have to be physically in one place and be able to support myself? These are important things to, ask yourself. And like I said, it's associated with Sagittarius, and then the outcome is the Knight of Wands, which is a devil-may-care attitude, an adventurous attitude. So I'm wondering if there are any Sagittarius that are planning to travel to train for something spiritual. I don't know. I also think that with the Knights, there's two Knights in this reading. And if you have been involved with somebody who is too much in their head and they're not enough in their heart, you will meet your match with the Knight of Wands. Because it's a double fire energy. They approach life with great enthusiasm. And sometimes, even though air signs are supposed to be very compatible with Sag, they can sometimes be a little cool, a little bit too abstract in their own heads. And therefore, it can be a little bit exasperating for Sagittarians, because we tend to be very passionate and vocal about what we're into, and we can feel that they leave us a little bit cold. So the air signs are Gemini, which is our opposite sign, Libra, and Aquarius, if that means anything to anybody. Okay, Sag, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.